It has been 16 years since Art and LeeAnne Ward started attending Home Church Langley along with their daughters, Jessica and Kristina. And as you know, those 16 years have been filled with ups and downs and joys and sorrows. And through it all, every Sunday, Art comes to church wearing one of these caps. And what does the cap say? God is good all the time. God is good all the time. That's been his testimony throughout his whole time at Home Church Langley. And through the years, probably 3 or 4 or 5 times, I don't know exactly, Art has stepped up to the microphone to give a testimony to the glory of God. And today is a really good day for him to give an update on that testimony before I share a brief message on Psalm 62. So Art and Jessica and Kristina, your wife is at work, right? But it's all yours. Grab this one here.
Good morning. You know, what makes this a special day is my first testimony that I gave years ago. I spoke in church and I had both my girls and they were sitting in the audience with my wife, LeeAnne. I looked at both of them and I says, Jessica and Kristina, I says, you'll hear things today that you don't think would be possible. You'll hear things that you're going to wonder about. But I asked both of them not to judge me. Until this day, they've never judged me. And the reason why they haven't is because I know the Lord. The Lord took care of all of my bad doings. Let's put it that way. And what another thing I guess make me special day is, it is the first, by all means. And for some people that don't know Jessica, she's the one that we've been praying for over 10 years from this church. And she's been living in Vancouver Street for over 12 years. And in quite right down the heart of it. And where LeeAnne and I have seen people get stabbed and so on and shoot up with needles. So the special thing is she had to stand beside my side to hear what I got to say today. And I just want you guys to open your hearts and open your minds to what I'm going to say. And pass it on to people that need the Lord in their lives. So I'm going to tell you how I got here. Way back a long time ago. I guess I was about 30. I was hanging around with some bikers, and we went into this little hick town, and we ended up having to run in with the law, and we all get busted and guns are pulled out and so on and so on. There was some gunfire, and I was sitting in the jail cell up there, and I had this cop come up to me, and he said, I would like to tell you who I am. I want to introduce myself to you. And I says, well, so? I said, I don't really want to know. And he says, well, I'm going to tell you anyhow. He says, I was your executioner and I couldn't pull the trigger. I got thinking about that. It didn't really bother me per se. I heard from another officer when they transferred me out of there that this guy was a Christian and he couldn't pull his trigger, and he got recommended for it. So as I went into the prison system, I ran into this guy. His name was Tiny. He was 4+. He was an ex-biker, and he accepted the Lord in prison. And he would come by my cell once in a while. He would go knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. What do you want, Tiny? Well, let the Lord in. And I wasn't a Christian. He was. He accepted him in prison. And he said, the Lord's only going to try 3 times. He's going to walk away. I said, well, if he walks away, he walks away. And I told him, I says, Tony, I've always found a way of surviving. I'm going to continue. So as days went on, I got released. I met up with LeeAnne. We put a life together and had 2 beautiful girls, Jessica and Kristina. And at one time of our life there that I got tied back up in with some of the bikers that came around. I was working on their bikes and whatnot. And I was smoking, 3 packs a day faithfully. I drank a case and a half of beer a day faithfully. She said to me one day, she says, I think it's time to go to church. And I told her I'll try it once. And I did. And of course, next Sunday, she was persistent. It's time to go again. I'll go one more time. And I kept on saying that one more time. And they wanted to have a meeting at the church with the pastor. And his name was Trucker Dave. And I said to LeeAnne, I said, if they think they're going to gang up on me, I said, I'm going to go in there with my gloves on. And I did. And I fought every question that he was throwing at me. And I just did not want to become a Christian, but I will attend your church because of LeeAnne and my 2 girls. Soon as it was the next Sunday, actually, after that meeting, the pastor was preaching on a sermon of giving your life over. And he said, with everybody's heads bowed, if you feel that you need to accept the Lord, please raise your hand. I fought. I even said to LeeAnne, I said, LeeAnne, grab my arm, it's going up. And I did. I honestly did. And it moved about 6 inches. Right after the sermon, I headed out the door. The pastor didn't talk to no one. He came and brought me out in the parking lot. He said, there's something that you want to tell us or tell me. And I said, I need the Lord in my life. So that's where I began my Christian walk. And it was, within, I'm going to say a month, I said to the Lord, Lord, I don't want to smoke no more. I smoked 3.5, or actually, well, by then it was 3.5 packs a day. I smoke 3.5 packs a day now. I don't want to hang around with the bikers no more, work on their bikes. I don't want to drink no more. And I says, if you want me to stop, you need to take my cravings. If you don't take my cravings, I'm going to smoke and I'm going to drink. And I heard from somebody from our church, actually Trucker Dave, says, you can't make deals with the Lord. He says, I'm not making him a deal. I'm making him a promise. And I promised him. And he took my cravings away. And I've not touched. I've never turned back. And I will not look back. And I'm talking 24 years when I dropped all that. So, and I can honestly say, hey, the Lord works. And we've had a couple other incidents. Shortly after that, Jessica was getting tangled up to kids at school, whatever, and I want to try different smoking pot and whatever, right? I also had some bleeding going on and had a bad shoulder. At our church, we found this, we found this, the scan in Burnaby that would do it for $900 instead of waiting 2 years on a waiting list. We raised $900 to have it done. I go in there, I laid on the, and it's hurt. I mean, it hurts. I laid on the table and they took a video of it, and I got up, pain went away. I said to the Lord, I said, why did you make me spend $900 to take my pain away? And I asked him that. And the response I got from the Lord was, don't ask questions. Trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord. You have to trust in the Lord, right? So I've stopped asking why. My next major incident when I was diagnosed with colon cancer, my doctor couldn't figure it out. I didn't want to tell LeeAnne. I was having bleeding and so on and so on. So I went to a naturopath. I spent just about $1,000 for my first visit. And he said, come back in a week later and I'll tell you what you got. And I went back there a week later. The bleeding's coming from such and such area. And if we do this, we can solve that problem with you. But it's money. So anyways, I wanted to go see this specialist, and he was checking me out for the first time. Yep. And then it was time to tell LeeAnne. So I told LeeAnne, and of course she cried for half a day. She got over that. Now I said, LeeAnne, now we need to move on. So when we went back, and I saw this naturopath a couple of times, bleeding starting to slow down, and then I went to this neurologist in Delta Hospital, and he was gearing me up for surgery and so on and so on, and he had to do one more test, and they couldn't find it. Till this day, they can't find it. They were scheduled for surgery. So who do you think can do that? Exactly, Lord himself, right? So I guess what I'm saying is if I can do it, anybody can. Anybody can. You know, for some reason, the Lord takes a little bit longer on things for whatever reason. Maybe the person's faith is not quite up there. Maybe doesn't pray enough during the day. Who knows? It's you and the Lord. That's who knows it, right? So the bottom line is, I don't believe in stories. If it's a testimony, I will listen to it. I will take it to heart. I will do whatever with the testimony, right? Even when we started to search for Jessica, when she went on the street, and Kristina was not too far behind her, and Kristina disappeared. We went into some pretty rough areas. Well, we always said a prayer with the Lord before we left, and during, we had him with us. And I had my hat on all the time, and I just would not take it off for no one, right? And matter of fact, we went in this one place, it was an outreach place, and they had said, take all hats off, please, while you're in the stuff. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't take mine off. And I wouldn't. It belonged to the Lord. And after their thing, he came up and really respected me for that. Because I said it belonged to the Lord. I said, it doesn't belong to nobody else but to the Lord. So when we continued looking for Jessica, it was getting to the point that how much further as elderly people pursue to find her, or sometimes we didn't find her, sometimes we found her right away. So the last part of my testimony here is Jessica came to us. So Jess, what would you like to say?
My whole life, I never really believed in God. And the last couple of years I was on the street, I kept asking, just hoping that maybe there's someone out there, God out there, just asking him to change my life because I couldn't handle living on the streets anymore. And then next thing you know, he gave me Kristina a year ago, and I got clean for her, and I know that was God working. Only he could do that. He totally turned my life around. I finally realized he is out there. I'm very thankful for that.
But the only part about that is Jessica really found it tough to tell us that she was pregnant.
I didn't tell him for 4 months. 4 or 5 months, I think.
But I think the Lord is handling it quite well with us. A gorgeous baby, you know. It's from the drug use and whatnot, it's gotta be a miracle child from the Lord. That's all it is, right? Yeah. So I guess, one thing I would say, if I ever had to do any of this over again, you can ask a whole bunch of people, and people say, well, I don't know. One thing that I would do differently in my life is I would honestly become a Christian at the beginning. But by saying that, I remember when I was a youngster, I got kicked out of Sunday school. I did. They wouldn't have me there no more. But we could always change that, for the better, right? So if the Lord had remolded me, as you guys are looking at him, and my daughter that we've been praying for, and a lot of people never ever knew who she was, right? If the Lord can have us come up here and stand faithfully, we can do it for anybody. So I say if there's somebody out there that needs to know the Lord a bit more, come to us. Stand ahead, stand up. You're not alone. You're not alone. So other than that, it's not all glory. I can tell you that. Even this morning, getting these two going. Okay, so we've never been this late. And I said to the Lord, I said, we're late. What can I do? He just said, slow down. So that's what I did. I slowed down. And then things started to come back to me on my emails and whatnot. I had a little bit of time, So, and I showed up on time. Yeah. So if I hadn't have listened to him, I would have got a speeding ticket. Right? So I took choose to listen to him. And so grateful to have her. It's a good feeling. Yeah. Just like Pastor with his grandkids, man. It's a great feeling, Yeah. So I do thank you for letting me stand up here today. Yeah. Right, Jess? What? Is he? Okay. That's all right. She's loud.